Just wanted to start off by saying that if you want an answer at the end, prepare to be disappointed. There just isn't one. I was an intern at Nickelodeon Studios in the year in 2005 for my degree in animation. I wasn't paid, of course. Most internships aren't, but it did had some perks beyond education. To adults, it might be even like a big one, but most kids at the time would go crazy over it. Now, since I work directly with the editors and animators, I got few of new episodes the days before they aired till I'll get right to it without getting too many unnecessary details. They had recently made the Spongebob movie, and the entire stats was somewhat sapped of creativity, so it took them longer to start up the season. But the delay lasted longer for more upsetting reasons. There was a problem with the series 4 premiere that set everyone and everything back for several months. Me and two other interns were in the editing room along with the lead animators and sound editors for the final cut. We received a copy that was supposed to be Fear the Krabby Patty and gathered around the screen to watch. And now given that it isn't final yet, animators often put up a mock title card. Sort of, it's a joke for us with phony. Oftentimes, load titles such as "How Sex Does It Work" instead of "Rockabye Brawley." When SpongeBob and Patrick saw Dr. C. Scallop, nothing particularly funny, but works-related chuckles. But when we saw the title Squidward's Suicide, we didn't think more than just a morbid joke. Sorry. One of the interns did a small throat laugh at it. The happy-go-lucky music played as normal. The story began with Squidward passing to Sega's clarinet, hitting a few sour notes like normal. We hear SpongeBob laughing outside, and Squidward stops, yells at him to keep it down as he has a concert that night and needs to practice. SpongeBob says okay and goes to see Sandy with Patrick. The bubbles splash the screen and come out DC at the ending of Squidward's concert. That's when things begin odd. While playing, a few frames repeat themselves, but the sound doesn't. At this point, the sound is side up with the animation, so yes, that's not common. But when he starts playing, the sound finishes as if the skip never happened. There is a slight murmuring in the crowd before they begin to boo him. But not normal cartoon booing that is common in the show, where you could clearly see the malice and hate in it. Squidward's in full frame and looked visibly afraid. The shot goes to the crowd with SpongeBob in the center frame. He too is booing, very much unlike him. This isn't the real oddest thing, though. What odd is that everyone had hyper-realistic eyes, very detailed, clearly not shots of real people's eyes, but something a bit more than CGI. The pupils were red. Someone else looked at each other and obviously confused. Since we weren't the writers, we didn't question its appeal to children yet. The shot goes back to Squidward, sitting on the edge of his bed, looking unformed. The view out of his pothole window is a night sky, so it is very long after the concert. The unsettling part is that there was no sound. Literally no sound. Not even the feedback from the speakers in the room. As soon as the speakers were turned off, then through their status showing him walking perfectly, he just sat there, blinking in the silence for about 30 seconds, and then he started to sob softly. He put his hands, or tentacles, over his eyes and cried quietly for a full minute more. All the while, a sound in the background very slowly growing from nothing to barely audible. It sounded like a slight breeze through a forest. The screen slowly began zooming in on his face. By slowly, I mean it's only noticeable if you look at shots 10 seconds apart for size foot size. His sobbing grew louder, more full and of hurt and anger. The screen then twitches a bit as it twitches on itself for a split second, then back to normal. The wind through the trees sounded to get slowly louder and more severe, as if a storm was brewing somewhere. The eerie part was the sound, and Squidward's sobbing sounded real, as if the sound wasn't coming from the speakers, as if the speakers were holes to the sound was coming through the other side. As good a sound as the studio likes to have. They do not purchase the equipment that could be good to produce sound of that quality. Below the sound of the wind and sobbing, very faint, something sounded like laughing. It came to odd intervals. I never lasted more than a second, so you would have a hard time pinning it. We watched the show twice, so pardon me if this thing sounded too specific, but I had to think about them. After 30 seconds of this, the screen blurred and twitched violently, and something flashed over the screen, as if a single frame was replaced. The lead animation editor paused and rewound frame by frame. What we saw was horrible. It was a still photo of a dead child. He could have been more than 6. The face was mangled and bloodied. One eye dangled over his uptorn face, popped. He was naked down to his underwear. His stomach clearly cut open and his entrails lay beside him. He was laying on some pavement that was possibly a road. The most upsetting part is that there was a shadow of the photographer. There was no crime tape, no evidence tag or markers, and the angle was completely of the shot designed to be evidence. It would seem the photographer was the person responsible for the child's death. We were of course mortified, but pressed on, hoping that it was just a sick joke. The screen flipped back to Squidward, still sobbing louder than before, and half body in frame. There was what appeared now to be blood running down his face from his eyes. The blood was done in a hyper-realistic style, looking as if you touch it, you'll get blood on your fingers. The wind sounded now as if it were at the gale blowing through the forest. There was even a snapping sound of branches, the laughing, the deep bird tone lasting longer, intervals and coming more frequently, about 20 seconds. The screen began twisted and showed a single frame photo. The editor was excluded to go back. We all were, but he knew he had to. This time the photo was that appeared of a little girl, no older than the first child. She was laying in her stomach, her bracelets in a pool of blood. Her left eye was too popped out and popped. Naked except for underpants. Her entrails were piled atop of her above another crease cut along her back. Again, the body was on the street and the photographer's shadow was visible, very visible in size and shape to the first. I had to choke back vomited, and one intern, the only female in the room, ran out. The show resumed. About 5 seconds after the second photos played, Squidward went silent, as did all sound. Like when this scene started, he put his testicles down and his eyes were now done in hyperrealism. Like the others in the beginning of the episode, they were beating, bloodshot, and pulsing. He just stared at the screen, as if watching the viewer. About seconds, he started sobbing. This time, not covering his eyes. The sound was piercing and loud. The most fear-including of the sobbing was mixed with screams. Tears and blood were dripping down his face. As a heavy rate, the wind sounded come back, so did a deep voice laughing. At this time, the photo lasted for a good 5 straight. The animator was able to stop it on the fourth and back up. This time it was the picture of a boy about the same age. But this time, the scene was different. The entrails were just being pulled out of the stomach, wounded by a large hand. The right eye popped and dangling. Blood trickled down from it. The animator proceeded. It was hard to believe, but the next one was different. We couldn't tell what. He went on to the next, same thing. He went back to the first then quickly and I lost it. I vomited on the floor. The sound editors gasped at the screen. The 5 frames were not as if they were 5 different photos. They were played as they were the frames from a video. We saw the hand slowly lifted the guts. We saw the kid's eyes focus on it. We even saw 2 frames of the kid beginning to blink. The lead sound editor told us to stop. He has to call in the creator to see this. Steven Hillenberg arrived within 15 minutes. He was confused of why he was called here, so the editor just continued the episode. Once in a few frames below, all screaming and all sound began stopped. Squidward just stared at the viewer in the frame for 3 seconds. The shot quickly panned out, and we heard the voice saying, as we see in Squidward hands a shotgun. He immediately puts the gun in his mouth and pulls the trigger. Realistic blood and brain matter splattered the walls behind him and his bed as he flybacks with the force. The last 5 seconds of this episode, slowly his body on the bed, on the side, one eye dangling on what was left of his head above the floor. Staring blankly at it, the episode ends. Steven is obviously angry at this and demanded knowing what the hell was going on. Most people left the room at this point, so it's just a hint told for us to watch it again. Viewing the episode twice only served to imprint the entirety of it in my mind. Could cause me horrible nightmares. I'm sorry I stayed. The only theory we could think was the file was edited by someone in the chain from the drawing studio to here. The CTO was called in to analyze when it happened. The analyst of the files did show it was edited over by new material. However, the time stop of it were mere 24 seconds before we began viewing it. All equipment involving was examined of foreign software and hardware as well as glitches, as if the timestamp may have glitched and showed the wrong time. But everything checked out fine. We don't know what happened, and to this day, nobody does. There was an explanation due to the nature of the photos, but nothing came for it. No child as seen was identified, and no clues were gathered from the data involving nor physical clues in the photos. I never believed in unexplainable paranormal before, but now I had something happen, and that can't prove anything about it beyond actual evidence. I think twice about things.
This will be your only time. You will end up like Squidward.